Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to welcome our theme speaker for Vision Summit. Every year, we call an industry leader to set the tone for the 2 days of deliberations. And we're very, very fortunate to have with us the chairman of Mindtree, Mr. Subroto Bagchi. Particularly in this city, Mr. Bagchi needs absolutely no introduction. But given the fact that we have a large number of visitors from outside the software industry, where he's most well known, and from outside India, I'll take a moment to introduce him. Subroto Bagchi started as the Chief Operating Officer at Mindtree after its inception in 1999. Serving as the COO from 1999 to 2007, Mr. Bagchi was instrumental in articulating Mindtree's vision, mission, and values. He led leadership development, marketing, and knowledge management initiatives that differentiated the company from the very beginning. In 2010, he was appointed Vice Chairman to the board, and on April 1st, 2012, he assumed the office of the Chairman. Mr. Bagchi serves as a member of the Governing Council of the STPI and has been acclaimed as India's #1 best-selling business author in 2011. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Subroto Bagchi.
Thank you, Ms. Menon. Honorable Minister Shri Patel, Mr. Felton, assembled guests, it's a great honor to be delivering the theme address for IESA. It's especially a matter of honor, great honor for me, because this is a defining year for you as you are turning into your 10th year. So IESA will be 10 very soon. And that's a very magical year to be in, because most Fortune 500 companies do not last beyond 10 years as themselves without a merger or acquisition or getting out of the Fortune 500 list. So given that 10 is a great year to be in, and anybody who survives 10 will survive 15, as the Mindtree example shows, or anybody who will survive 15 will probably survive 25, as bigger example shows. So it's a great year to be in. I particularly admire your dedication. I have been seeing IESA from the beginning, and in many ways you walk in the shadow of giants, but you have been able to hold your head high, and you have been able to carve a very distinctive position for you, and you have been chasing your own purpose very diligently. I think the future for both the electronics and semiconductor industry is at an inflection point, and in that inflection point, the role of IESA will become even more strategic. Its need for building advocacy will become even more important. And more than ever before, I think IESA will have to embrace not just the capacity of leading by thought, but will have to embrace the idea of rainmaking. And we'll talk about that briefly in a few moments. In exchange of today's honor that you have bestowed on me, I have two very simple ideas to share with you. One is the idea of the semiconductor fab in India, and that essentially is my message for government. And it's a delightful thing that many governments are represented here. This is a time like never before for government to be the enabling factor. In the second part of my address, I would briefly talk about entrepreneurship and the importance of building skill. So let me first talk to you about government, the role of government, the power of government, the power of government to be the agency of good. First and foremost, I want to go back in time in the 1980s, when the IT revolution in India was just about to happen. Today, a lot of us, including government servants and including politicians, they usually say that the IT industry happened in India because of the fact that the government let it be, and politicians, political parties, they didn't take notice of the IT industry. Nothing is further from the truth. I think first and foremost, the IT industry would not have been born without the pioneering ideals and ideas of a prime minister then in office and two very important government servants. Rajiv Gandhi was responsible for bringing in the first computer policy at a national level. He believed that India needs computers. The subsequent birth of the software industry was because of the computer policy that the government of India embraced. So on one hand was political statesmanship. On the other hand, it was the relentless work of two government servants. One was N. Sheshagiri, Dr. Sheshagiri, and the other Mr. N. Vittal. Without the work of these two statesmen-like bureaucrats, the IT industry wouldn't have been what it is today. Now, these two officers of the government did something very significant at that point in time, lest it be forgotten, without which the software industry wouldn't have come up. What Mr. Vittal did is he wrote the check for every earth station that came up in every metropolitan city. So the Software Technology Park of India was born because the industry at that point in time, not Wipro, not Infosys, not TCS, could afford the cost of an earth station, which was about 2 crores at that point in time. So the STPI was born so that uplinking could be done, and every company did not have to think in terms of connectivity. And that was an inflection point. That was a tipping point on that inflection point, so that rest just went viral. It's very important why I'm recollecting, because I think never before, like never before, the industry requires the government, the industry requires the power of the bureaucracy, and industry requires the support of political parties. Political parties I have not talked about. I told you how without the government and without the bureaucrats, this industry couldn't have come up. I am deeply grateful to political parties that even after they figured that this is an industry that is coming on its own 2 legs, they let it be. It is no matter of simple chance that politics stayed out of it. I think politics, political party, and politicians are extremely intelligent people. If the political parties would have taken a different approach, I don't think we would have been standing here today. And this is across political parties in the country. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this is very simple. I think India needs fabs. We are a landlocked country from a technological standpoint. I had a map which I had given the organizers. I don't think you were able to pull up that map, but hopefully you'll be able to share that map. It's a world map which I downloaded from a site called 10 Stripes, which tracks the semiconductor industry. It shows the world map in darkness and the fabs as points of light. And it's amazing how dark the world is vis-a-vis the locations of the fabs. There are about 150 fabs which are shown in that map, and they are concentrated around the United States, UK and Europe, a little bit in Southeast Asia, and largely the Far East. India is a dark continent as far as fabrication technology is concerned. Africa is dark continent as far as fabrication technology is concerned. So we need the fab. We need the fab like never before. It's not a nice to have thing. If we want to create jobs for 1.3 billion people today, if we want to pull Africa up from where it is, I think semiconductor technology will have to take birth through effective fabrication units in India like never before. And this will not happen without political sagacity, because as all of you have read, the cost of the two fabs alone are estimated to be about 52,000 crores. And anything which has got that number to it is suspect in scam-ridden India today. So some politician, some bunch of government servants will have to stand up for it and keep their head held high and push the fab projects through. And the reason I'm appealing to political parties is because it's a non-partisan issue today. I don't know who's going to come to power, but I think it must be championed by the next Prime Minister. Just as Rajiv Gandhi championed the idea of a computer policy for a nation about to be born, and he outlined that without computers we can't go and navigate the 21st century. Whether it is Mr. Rahul Gandhi or it is Mr. Modi, I think it is critical that the next Prime Minister embraces the idea that without any further delay, India will be moved out of the darkness of the world map. In a parlance of interplanetary travel, if we were to send a satellite to Mars or to any other place, one thing is velocity. The other thing is from time to time, we have to do what is called an orbit-raising maneuver, or an ORM. So if you look at the Mangalyaan spacecraft that has gone, there were 6 orbit-raising maneuvers that were done so that it will move out of the Earth orbit into the desired orbit. I think the semiconductor industry today, like never before, is in requirement of orbit-raising maneuver, and that will be largely a maneuver in the hands of the politicians and the bureaucracy. And I hope that you will not fail us so that we are able to deliver the promise that this industry is capable of. Having said that, now let me briefly talk to you about entrepreneurship. In India today, there is no lack of entrepreneurs, but there is dearth of scale. We build entrepreneurs. Even if we go to a tier 2, tier 3 city and town in India, in every sector we find there are so many entrepreneurs who have come up. The challenge for us is to build scale. Now, assuming that we'll have the fab and assuming that we'll have the favorable government policy and continued support of enlightened officers of the government, I think entrepreneurs will have to think about scale.